Well, it's very good to see you all again. I missed you, and well, hopefully you missed me, but you did get last week. You got a full dose of Father Todd Molinari. He is a force to contend with. You know, we went to seminary together, and even though I was the one that got to study for the doctorate, I always maintained that he was the one who was the smartest, most brilliant priest in our diocese. But I'm glad you got to be here. He told me, he said he really enjoyed spending the time here with you guys. So, you know, when we're traveling, when we're on a trip, it's really important to know where we're going and to have the right directions. And those of us who predate smartphones have a better appreciation of this, right? Like if you didn't have the right directions, you got lost, right? You had to ask somebody for directions, unless of course you're a guy and you just figured it out, right? But you know, we didn't have all these easy things to get from one place to another. You know, and the best guide to get somewhere is somebody who's from that place. And each of us has this deep desire to know where we are going and how to get there. And what is our destination? What is the ultimate goal? It's heaven. And who can show us? The one who is from there. And he is a good shepherd, right? Because he left his glory that he had with the Father from all eternity to become one of us, to know us intimately, and then to die in our nature and to rise in our nature so that he opens up the way. And he shows us what the destination is, which is life with him, and the way there, which is life with him. We need a shepherd to guide us, to show us the way, and to correct us when we go off on the wrong path. We need that good shepherd, and what do we hear him tell us today? That he is the good shepherd. He knows our call. Even when we're the one who's left the 99 and we're out lost in the desert, he knows that cry of ours, and he comes to get us. The more we are with him, the more we recognize his voice. And that's what it really means to be a follower of his. Do we recognize his voice? Are we seeking his voice? Are we listening to that voice? And he shows us that he is the good shepherd because he lays down his life for his sheep. And he goes all the way to give himself to us in the Holy Eucharist. And you know who's a good shepherd? Saint Damien of Molokai. You know, on this pilgrimage to Molokai, we were talking about the trip with a friend of ours, and he says, you know, it was also a vacation. It was a pillcation. But Saint Damien is a great example of the good shepherd, right? That began with his own personal, intense relationship with Jesus, whereby he could hear his voice and be called into the priesthood in Belgium, and then to hear the Lord's call again to go as a missionary to the Hawaiian Islands, where he never saw his family ever again, and then to go that next and heroic step to become the priest for those suffering from leprosy on Molokai. He is an imitator of the Good Shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep. And you can imagine those who are suffering from leprosy, just how lost they were and how we all would be in that situation. If you were a child with, this is especially at the beginning, if you were a child with leprosy, they came and got you and you never saw your family ever again. If you were a husband or wife, you had leprosy, you would never see your spouse again. And then the hopelessness and the poverty and the despair and desperation of being on this little tiny volcanic peninsula where you would never leave except by dying. It'd be easy to be lost. And it was Father Damien, and actually not only Father Damien, that 4 priests volunteered to go to Molokai from his community. And the superior wanted to set up a rotation of these priests. And Damien was first, and he went, and the second day he was there, he wrote back to his superior, and he says, I need to stay. How are they going to trust us? How can I be a good shepherd if we're just rotating through? I have to stay, I have to live with them, I have to share life with them. And he knew what that meant. And he did. He shared everything, including the disease from which he died. But he is the one who laid down his life for his sheep in imitation of the Good Shepherd. He was no hired hand. And when I was there, I hope you can come to the Tuesday talk, and then you can also hear from Monsignor O'Connor. But being there, Damien has always had an impact on my life. He was very influential in my younger life as I was beginning to think about the priesthood. But when I was there, and we got to say Mass in the church that he built, at the altar that he built and said Mass in, next to the tomb where part of him is buried, that St. Damien made himself known to me in prayer, that he is a force in my priesthood. I didn't know it. I thought it was just at the beginning, but he's always been there. And he has made known to me that he's very interested in what happens to me as a priest. I found that very consoling. And you know who else is a good shepherd? Archbishop Alexander Sample. You know, before I came to Christ the King, a lot of you know this, is that I worked at the Vatican, and I worked in this particular office. It was the Congregation for Bishops. And what the work of that office is that it vets, it studies, it proposes all the candidates for bishop around the world. And so that was my job for 9 years. I studied candidates, studied dossiers, hundreds of candidates. And so I can tell you with a great amount of certainty that Archbishop Sample is among the best bishops in the Catholic Church today. And he's our shepherd. And I mean, you can notice the love that he has for his flock, the courage in speaking the truth even when it's difficult and despised. He loves the truth. He loves God more than he loves himself and takes the shots for it. His dedicated care of priests, his inspired preaching and example, right? He's not about himself. We know that now. All he seeks is to act in accord with the mind and the heart of the church. Whether that's the sacred liturgy, whether that's Catholic education, whether that's health care, he's our shepherd. And I think most of us appreciate it. We know that. And we know that he's among the best. And I'd like to say, too, that Christ the King is the Archbishop's parish. Right? I mean, he's got his parish, right? It's called the Cathedral. That's his parish. But Christ the King is right in there. Why? Well, because what we do here is that we just joyfully implement the mind and the heart of the church according to his vision. And he loves to come to visit Christ the King. And he tells me that when he comes here. He's like, gosh, when I come to Christ, I don't have to have my guard up. I know that the liturgy will be beautiful. I don't have to worry about anything. And he feels our prayers and our support for him. He feels very much at home when he comes to visit Christ the King. And that because we assist him with our prayers and support his vision and initiatives. Well, in saying that, is that now he's asking us to help him financially. We're now beginning the Archbishop's Catholic Appeal for 2024. And what is this appeal? This appeal funds his ministry. Right? This is what makes it financially possible for him to exercise his ministry as Archbishop of Western Oregon because of our generosity in giving to this appeal. Because there's many needs in the Archdiocese beyond the parish. Right? How do we reach our students at Oregon State, U of O, George Fox, Linfield, Pacific, Western, Southern Oregon? How do we reach those who are incarcerated in our correctional system? How do we care for our retired priests who have given themselves to us and have benefited our salvation? How do we make our voices heard in the pro-life effort? How do we cultivate our outreach to our immigrant brothers and sisters? These are all aspects of Archbishop Sample's ministry, and he needs our help for it, to help him to continue that work as a good shepherd. And one of the concrete examples of what happens with the Archbishop's Catholic Appeal is the priest that's here before you. Right? I'm one of the very few that had the blessing and the opportunity to earn a doctorate in theology. And this allowed me to teach future priests, many of whom are pastors now in the Archdiocese. And most of the time, I'm very proud of that fact. Most of the time. No, I'm just kidding. They're all really good. But that's allowed me to help in this way, and that comes from the Archbishop's Catholic Appeal. So the Archbishop has prepared a short video, and you can watch it on our homepage. I think we sent it out on Flocknote and social media. And as you leave today with your bulletin, you'll be given an envelope for that. And I just ask us to be generous, right? To give what we can, to pray about it, and to give what Jesus puts on our heart, because every little bit helps. We fell short of our goal last year. Our last year's goal was 72,000. We came in at 56. But they must think that a lot of confidence in us, because this year's goal is 80,000. It's like, I'll take that as a vote of confidence. But let's work to make our goal this year for our Good Shepherd. And this brings us to our third and final point. Damien of Molokai was a good shepherd. Archbishop Sample's a good shepherd. We need good shepherds to come from our parish. I've been here almost 6 years, and from knowing the history of the parish, I'm not aware that our parish has produced a priest from the families of this parish. We've fostered many vocations over the years with seminarians and religious communities that we've helped along the way, but from our own families, we're still waiting for that to happen. And I think, as we've developed and been living our pastoral vision, our playbook, I've begun to notice something in our parish, and it's beautiful. It's a culture of vocations. That we're cooperating with Jesus in forming our parish community, whereby it's okay to think about the vocation to the priesthood and religious life. It's okay to talk about it, that we encourage that, and that we want all of our young people to find whatever vocation Jesus is calling them to. And I'll just give you two examples of how this culture is being formed in our parish. The first is in our server program. We currently have 32 altar boys, and we have 27 daughters of St. Therese. And these programs are specifically for vocational discernment. And so our daughters of St. Therese recently went to go visit the sisters in West Lynn, the Society of Mary. They spent the day with them. And on the ride back, some of our girls were saying, you know what? That was kind of fun. I think I would like to be a sister. To be able to say that out loud. I think of an example from our young men. Recently we had in our youth group, we had our confirmation candidates announce to the room, to their parents and peers, their saint that they've chosen for confirmation. And it was very beautiful to hear why these young people chose this particular saint. Well, one of our young men got up, and in the course of explaining why he chose the saint that he did, he said, and you know what? I'm thinking about becoming a priest. I'm like, no way. Like, I would never have had the courage to say that. But he did, and he felt that he could. And I have to give a shout out to David Ochoa, who's our coordinator of youth evangelization. He stopped at that point and asked the room to pray for this young man, for his discernment. But before he did that, he said to the rest of the young guys, he said, so is there anyone else here who's thinking about becoming a priest? And 3 other young men got up and joined him, and the whole room prayed for them. That's what I'm talking about, a culture of vocations. And this is happening in the parish. And I was just so proud of that. So the Lord wants to raise up more good shepherds, because the Lord is doing something here in our parish. The good shepherd is calling us to follow him. And so let's respond by seeking him, seeking holiness, seeking intimacy with him, supporting our good shepherd, Archbishop Sample, in his needs through the Archbishop's Catholic Appeal. And then let's continue to build that culture of vocations, encouraging the young people of our parish through our words and example to say yes to Jesus, to whatever he is calling them to.